When we say Sabbath or Shabbat, does it have a meaning? Does the word Sabbath mean anything, or is it just the name of a day of the week? Why do I ask this question? Well, I ask this question because in Hebrew, almost all names have meaning. A meaning in Hebrew is carried by certain 3 or 2 letter combinations, roots or shoresh, including names which are also built on these same combinations. It means it's always appropriate to ask, what meaning does a name have? Sabbath does have a meaning. The question is, what does Sabbath or the Shabbat mean? Does it mean rest? Not at all. Although Shabbat is a day of rest, the word Sabbath or Shabbat does not describe rest. Quite interesting. Does Shabbat mean to sit? No. Does Shabbat mean the 7th day of the week? Not at all. The word Shabbat or Sabbath means to cease. It means to stop an activity. The word Shabbat derives from the Hebrew verb shavat. Although frequently translated as rest, either if it's a noun or a verb, but a more accurate translation is season, to cease. The Shabbat is a cessation of some prior activity. Very important. That is why every place that Shabbat is mentioned, it always says 6 days you shall perform an activity, and the 7th day is a Shabbat. Because the Shabbat, by its very definition, exists in contrast to prior days in which something was done. And on Shabbat, it ceases from being done. Look at Exodus 20. For in 6 days Yah made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all that is in it, and he rested on the 7th day. So we may now understand, as I said earlier, why every place that Shabbat is mentioned, it always says 6 days you shall perform an activity, and the 7th day is a Shabbat, because the Shabbat, by its very definition, exists in contrast to prior days in which something was done. And on Shabbat, it ceases from being done. Given that this is the meaning of the word Shabbat, then the Christian idea of it is a bit problematic and peculiar. Why do I say that? If Sunday is the first day of the week, then it contradicts the very definition of Shabbat. You cannot start by stopping. You rather end by stopping. I repeat that. You cannot start by stopping. You rather end by stopping. If the Shabbat, by its very definition, exists in contrast to prior days in which something was done, and on the Shabbat it ceases from being done, then how can the beginning of the week, Sunday, be the Shabbat? You cannot start by stopping. That just doesn't work in logic. How can you start the week with Shabbat, which is the day of season from work? Think about that. And as you think about that, look back at Exodus 20, and you will see something strange in this list. Verses 10. But the 7th day is a Sabbath to Yah your Elohim. You shall perform no work. Now we get a list. Neither you, your son, your daughter, your manservant, your maidservant, your beast, nor your stranger. What is strange with this list? Think about that for next week's session.